Very close. All right, it's time for the test. It's super easy. If you put attention to my class last Tuesday, it should be easy for you. And it also had a couple of things related to previous ones. So presented here. And again, the same thing. Open your browser and go to slido.com and or use your cell phone. You can just open your camera and we'll open it for you. The code is 883540. And it has 6 questions, very easy. Hopefully everybody's getting it. All right, let's go for question number 1. All right. In the wall properties, what is the purpose of the number in brackets? These numbers right here. I'll give you some time to finish logging in. And you're presented with 4 options, I believe. And again, these are the internal properties of a wall in Revit. And we access is a type property. When you click edit type, it launches this dialog box, and we can add layers and define a function, material thickness. But there's a particular property about this thing in brackets. So I have 6 people responded. Let's see. Let's see the answer. Let's see the. So I don't know why I can't display the answer, but the answer is. I think the image take a lot of space. There is the answer is option number 3. Prioritize how materials connect in wall intersections.
Oh.
That is the answer. It doesn't have to do anything with construction sequence. It's a way for Revit to understand how these different layers will connect or not connect at corner conditions and wall intersections. All right, let's do the next one. So what is the name of this family? Remember, there are 3 tiers of organization in the way Revit organize elements. And in this view, hover over the tooltip, you will see that what is the name of the family. All right, I have 7 people responded. See the correct answer. You probably see it on your end. It is the here's the curtain wall. Perfect. Yay. Everybody got it right. Next one. These are the selection controls. It's in the lower right side of the user interface. Which of them disable the user ability to select element by face? Is it 1, 2, 3, or 4? And again, all the selection controls, when they display this red X, that means it's disabled. When the red X is not present, that means it's enabled. But each of them serves a different purpose. All right, 7 questions. Display the correct answer. It is correct. It's 4. This is select by face, number 4. The other is select or deselect elements that are pinned, or the other is select elements that are underlay, and the other is select elements that are, let me see. The first one is select or deselect elements that are linked. Select or deselect elements are underlay, pin objects, and by face. And then this is the filter, right? All right, next one. Walls display this little icon. What is the purpose of that icon? And this works also for curtain walls. So 4 responses in. All right, 7 in. Let's display the results. Flips the direction of a wall. This is the correct one. Indicates the interior side of a wall. That's incorrect. It indicates the exterior side of a wall. So it doesn't anchor the wall to the ground. Those are the grip points. And it doesn't convert the lines to a permanent dimension. All right, to the next one. So we did an exercise of copy monitor, and you can copy monitor elements to recreate objects from a link model into your active model. There are certain elements you can recreate, but not everything. What are the which of all these geometries you cannot recreate using copy monitor? This is how we end the class last time. Well, sort of, we copy monitor elements and then disestablish a relationship between the elements. And when elements are not aligned, they're going to trigger a coordination review, which is a visual notification that you need to go back and review the models and align them. Right, 7 people in. Majority got it right. You cannot recreate roofs. You can create walls, levels, and grids. Walls will travel between models, but I don't think they will travel with the openings. That's something to be aware. Like if you have a structural engineer recreating the wall, and the wall has embedded doors or windows, the holes that are punched by those holes and windows will not transfer into the link geometry. So they need to be manually traced. Okay, good job, guys. I think this is the last one. Oh no, there's one more. So we were talking about method of creating curtain walls last class. There is an automatic way of doing it using parameters and a dialog box. And there's another one when you use a manual method. So these are the three family types that ships with the architectural template. And which of them is the manual method of creating curtain walls? And the manual method is one in which you create a gigantic piece of glazing, and then you place grids, and then you place mullions and swap panels. And then the automatic method is the family type that allow you to create a curtain wall using the Revit dialog box, and all the parameters and the rules are spelled out in the user interface. All right, 7 in. Let's see the results. Oh, we're evenly here. The correct answer it's curtain wall 1. Curtain wall 1 is, and we're going to review this now. Curtain wall 1 is a family. When you create it, you just create a gigantic piece of glazing. And as opposed as a storefront, and this has nothing to do with how we identify this in the industry. This is the way the template names these families. And so the storefront is a family that automatically creates an array of panels. And the curtain wall method, you'll have to place it one by one. All right, so that's a good point to pick it up from where we left. Thanks for this. So let's close this test. And hopefully you download the data set. Pick it up from there. And here is where we left. You're going to see this link model into your architectural model. If you download my data sets from Google Drive, make sure you go to the Manage tab and then go to Manage Links. And this is going to, you need to fix the location of the link if needed. If it doesn't appear, you need to reload from, and this is a way to reconnect missing link definitions. All right, so we were talking about curtain walls, and I was showing you yesterday where we left it, the automatic method of creating curtain walls. So the way to get started a new definition is you go to the wall command, and in the type selector, when you scroll down over here, notice that there are 3 options. And this is what was in the test today. So this method, the curtain wall 1, is the manual method. And the manual method means that you have to create a gigantic piece of glazing, manually place each grid, adjust the distance between the grids, add the subdivisions between the panels, and then add the mullions and swap the panels with different panel types. The exterior glazing, the other one, it's only used for roof conditions. So I barely use it. It's built so that it's compatible with a roof. And the other one, it's the storefront is the automatic method. And the automatic method, it's a method by which you control the parameters using the type rules in the type properties. In last class, we created a new type based on an existing one. Remember, we started by selecting a type, edit it, duplicate, rename, and then change the parameter values. These are all the different rules. And if you recall also last time, in the type properties of a curtain wall, you'll find vertical and horizontal grids, and the way they identify the different orientations of the different mullion is using this border 1, border 2, which is not my preferred one. What I was saying last time is the border 1 in the vertical will be this mullion. The border 2 in the verticals will be that other mullion. And then the interior is everything in between, all these verticals. And then on the horizontal mullions, the border 1 is the one at the bottom, and border 2 is the one at the top. And then everything that is interior will be the horizontal ones. These are the horizontal ones. And you can apply a different shape of mullion in a curtain wall. And so I am going to show you now how we can add additional type of mullions. And so out of the box, if you look at the family properties, you're going to find a display called curtain wall mullions. And in here, there are circular mullions, corner mullions, rectangular mullions, trapezoids, etc. So I want to show first that anything that has the word corner, L corner, quad corner, trapezoid corner, and V corner, these are mullions that are intended to be used in vertical connections between two different mullions, two different curtain walls. We pull the nice slide deck here. And so when we have two curtain walls connected into a corner, out of the box, these corners are going to overlap. It's here. So the process to make very clean connections between two storefronts is to select the corner mullions and replace them with L corner, with a corner family. And there are 4 families that shipped with Revit: the L corner, the quad corner, the trapezoid corner, the V corner. And the beauty about this method is that the angle between the two assembles can vary. You can have a very obtuse angle, or you can have it very large, and the mullion will adjust accordingly to the angle between the assembles. And so that's the only purpose of these 4 families. So don't use it. Typically, avoid using them for other conditions. If it says a corner, it's because it's supposed to be in a corner. So how does that work? I'm going to create a curtain wall using the out-of-the-box storefront family. So you hit architecture, wall, then the type selector, select the storefront. And I'm going to create a corner condition. So 2 segments of a wall, my first wall, my second wall, and escape. Notice that because this is the automatic method, I didn't have to do much of anything. The rules of the spacing in the vertical and the horizontal are defined by the properties dialog box. So notice this corner condition. It's kind of wacky, right? This is the overlapping is not smooth. And if I want to convert this corner connection into the appropriate type, I have to A, unpin the mullion, and B, replace it with a corner family. So what I'm going to do is in this view, which is a corner view, if you can also do this in a floor plan. But in 3D, I do a window selection. Window selection start from the lower left to the upper right, and select all the mullions in that corner. The filter display a total of 6 different mullions. You can see the total count over here. And notice that there's an icon of a pin with a little icon below. This is called a system pin. Let me see if I can zoom into one of the. Does this work? Does this work? I was playing with this tool earlier, but okay, that is what it is. It's a pin, and right below of it, it has, I think it's like a chain link. Is it? And so what this is, it's a system pin. Let's exit this. And system pins are elements that are controlled by the Revit family definition. And so for the most part, we don't unpin objects. We only, if you see a system pin, that means it's a Revit attempt to control the location and the size and the family definition of that element. But from time to time, we may want to override that behavior, especially in this corner condition. And so after selecting the 6 mullions, unpin them using the unpin button. And then swap them with a corner condition. I'm going to do in an L corner, 5 by 5. And you're going to get a notification that there are 3 elements that will get deleted. The redundant mullions are going to get deleted from the project, and that's okay. So just hit this word, just hit the delete element button. And what I have now, it's a very clean corner mullion condition. And this corner mullion condition, it creates a clean connection regardless of the angle between the walls. So these walls can have a really short angle between them, or you can have them at larger angles, and then the mullion is going to deform accordingly to adapt to the different wall conditions. That makes sense. Now I can also select these mullions and swap it with other types. Let's look for the quad corner. Quad corners that's the result. You can also swap it with the trapezoid. Or swap it with the V corner mullion. And all these different mullions can be customized to receive different distances. We're going to create a mullion from scratch in the next exercise. Before we move there, I also want to show you that these curtain walls have the primary directions. In this case, notice how the vertical mullions cut the horizontal ones. And notice also how the vertical mullions intersects with the very top one. So this is a behavior you can control in the type properties of the assemble. To show you the options, select the curtain wall and then go to the edit type. And in the join condition, which is this option, join condition, you're going to see how the option selected says vertical grid continues. And then the options you have is horizontal grid continues. Or you can say all the borders are going to be continuous, and then the verticals are going to be continuous, and they're going to be they will be cut in the horizontal ones, or you can use the vice versa. Make the horizontal continuous, and let's pick the last choice, border and horizontal grid continuous. This is a type property, so it's going to affect all the elements of the same type. But now you can see how the horizontal mullion at the very top and in the borders remain continuous, and they have and how the horizontal mullions are also continuous, and the verticals are cut. Now, this is a behavior that you can also control on a mullion by mullion type. If you select a mullion, I don't know if you can tell, but right here, and pay attention because this is in the tests next Thursday, these little icon right here, it's allows a mullion to cycle between different mullion intersections. In other words, it makes the end of that mullion continuous, and only for that one. So if I click this toggle mullion join, notice how now the vertical mullion is continuous. And then if I pick the other one, if I select this one and click this one again, it's just swap it. And so you can customize, you can go to that level of customization by just clicking the toggle icon, which will enable or disable the mullion continuity. All right, clear? The other thing I want to show you is that all these panels, like how do I put a door inside this? These are 8-foot doors. They have a residual panels at the top. The rules of distribution start from the bottom. And if I need to add a double door, for example, how do I do that? The first thing is to clear the area for the door. For example, I'm going to select this mullion, and this mullion needs to go away. So you unpin it and then delete it. The same with the mullion at the bottom side. Now, if you're having a hard time selecting the bottom mullions, hit the tab key. Hover over and then hit the tab key. And when you tab and tab, you can cycle between the different elements underneath the cursor, unpin it and delete it. Again, select it, unpin it and delete it. And then these are 2 panels. And what you see here, it's the grid that subdivides the panels. Now, I want to create a single large panel in order to host a double door. And so I need to heal this panel, basically merge these 2 panels together so that I can place an appropriate double door family. And so the grids in an curtain wall system can be removed using this tool, the add remove segments, right over here. And if you enable that and then hit the grid segment, then these two panels are merged together. And now I have the appropriate size of a double door. It's clear from mullions that are redundant, and I heal the two panels, or I merged two panels into a single one. And now I can swap this panel with something else. I'm going to tab select and hover over, tab, tab, tab. And when you see that boundary pre-highlights around the panel, that's where you click. Notice how panels are system controlled, so you have to unpin them. And these panels now can be swapped. Notice how the type selector is activated. Before it was grayed out. Now I can replace this panel with other panel families, or I can replace them with other storefronts or other wall types. Just for fun, I'm just going to swap this with a generic 4-inch brick. And so this is a wall hosted as a panel inside a curtain wall. I'm not sure what would you do, but maybe you have some design intent that me to do this, and then you can play things like a window inside that. Or you can replace this panel with a door, a curtain wall door. And so the doors that ships with this template is only the single flush doors. I need to bring a curtain wall door definition that I'm able to swap the panel with. So let's load the family. So go to the insert panel, load family, and navigate to the door category. And then in this list, the out of the box family, you're going to find families that start with the word curtain wall. And these are the only families that are going to work with the curtain wall assembles. Don't attempt to install, the other type of doors. They are not going to work. They need a regular wall in order to do that. So the options is a double glass, double storefront, or a single glass. I'm going to use the double storefront. So select double storefront and hit open. Now the family is loaded into the project. Now to place the panel, tab select the big glass panel. You can hit tab by moving it to the edge of the panel. And then in the type properties, in the type selector, swap it with the double curtain wall storefront. Do not select the icon. This icon here, it's just indicates the family, but the next row indicates the type. So select this one, and now I have the door. And so the door receives the size of the panel, and it will schedule as a regular door. Now doors have handles, and these handles and hardware can be displayed if you switch the view to find. And now you can see the handles in the interior and the exterior. All right, so that's how we place doors inside a curtain wall. If you look at the floor plan, level 1. Wait, I see that because it's cropped. I'm gonna uncrop the view so that I can see everything. Here is the door, and this door will schedule the same way the rest of the doors. I mean, if you again, what I did is in order to see this in the floor plan, what I did is go to level 1, and then access the properties, and then where it says crop view, disable. The crop is the same as the AutoCAD viewport. To make it visible, enable this checkbox, and then to disable it and see everything in the project, clear this checkbox, and then you'll have access to the rest of the geometry. Now these family can be tagged. Let me show you how to do that. You go annotate, tag by category, and you tag this door. And right now, this door doesn't have any type mark. If this was, let's say, door 101, so you just go to the mark value and type 101. There you go. And this will be also part of the door schedule. All right, so this is how we add swap panels. Let's talk about any question. Here's a question from Ruth. Can you change the size of the storefront door? Yes, you can, but the size is driven by the distance between the curtain wall grids. And so a way to do this is to freeze the mullions and change the distance between the grids. So I'm going to try to do that here. We go to visibility graphics and then go to the curtain wall mullions, switch those off. Then all you see now, it's the panel subdivisions. If I need a specific distance between these mullions, pick the grid, and you see these temporary dimensions. You can say, okay, I need this to be exactly 3 feet.
Right.
Now, the reason it doesn't move is because they are system pins. Remember, the distribution of these panels is driven by the dialog box. So I have to unpin it and then change it. So this is 3 feet for that side. And then I pick the other one, 3 feet in this other side, unpin it. Unpin it, and then 3 feet. And now this door, it's exactly 6 feet in size. You can tell by this temporary dimension. So we have after I resize it the way it needs to be, like let's say the height of this is 8 by 6, and then you go to visibility graphics and go back to the curtain walls and enable it. Now this door is exactly 6 feet, but I had to do a lot of unpin in order to do that. Yeah.
Good.
All right. Okay, let's talk about the other method, the manual method. The manual method of doing this, it's creating a wall and using the curtain wall 1 family. So you go to wall architectural, and then in the property windows, wall, activate the wall, and then rather than using the storefront, you're going to use the curtain wall 1. Curtain wall 1 is going to create a gigantic piece of glazing. This is the manual method. It requires more work. It's a gigantic glaze panel. And in this method, you'll have to manually place the grids, adjust the distance between them, and then place the mullions. So let's do an example. I'm going to create a curtain wall 1, and I'm going to do it, snap it about 90 degrees, about 60 feet. And notice the difference between this and the storefront. The storefront comes automatically with a mullion pattern subdivision, but this one has nothing. And so One thing you can do is add the grids manually. I'll do this. I don't want to select this, and then you place a molding one by one. So go to Architectural tab, and then curtain grid, and then you start placing each grid one by one. Now this gives you greater flexibility because now you can create patterns of different panel sizes. But it's a little more tedious because the distance between the grids needs to be manually adjusted. So you can do it by selecting the grids and changing the distances between them. They need to be 7. Then I pick the other one. And remember, in order to move the grid, pick the grid and change the temporary dimensions. You're not going to be able to move this grid if you don't pick it. So pick the grid you want to move and then change the temporary dimensions. Pick the grid you want to move and then change the temporary dimensions. So I'm creating like a pattern of 7 by 3. And you can build your own distribution here. Again, it's more tedious. You can also do this in an elevation if it's easier. Then you can also create horizontal grids. So go to the architectural tab, curtain grid, and touch the vertical grid, any of the vertical ones. Touch a vertical grid in order to place a horizontal one. And you can use the temporary dimension that show up there to give you an idea of how much that's going to be. So I'm going to add 3 of them. And then I can adjust it. Escape to exit, and then select a grid. And this needs to be 8 by 2. And then the other needs to be 8 as well. The height also can be changed. I mean, you can stretch, you can change the height of a curtain wall by either pulling this handle or making it very precise by changing the unconnected height parameter here.
Oh, okay.
There you go. So it's very flexible, open to your imagination. Grids, curtain walls can display rotations in the orientation. If you look at the instance properties of a curtain wall, there are angles that control the rotation of the grids in the vertical and the horizontal. But this is a global setting for that particular assemble. But say you want this at 45, and there you go. It's an instance property, so that means that you have to do it one by one if you want to do it across the entire project. Remember, instance properties are unique to element. The size of all the walls is reported as reading parameters under the dimensions, and these can be extracted as quantity takeoff numbers. That's the beauty of Revit. Everything you model, you can extract areas and length. Okay, let's talk about adding different material. Like this is a single, when you tab select this panel, it's a system panel glazed. You can see the property here. And when you edit the property, when edit the type property, notice that it has a material associated with that. Well, what if I want like panels with different glass colors or with different glass types or a spandrel? Let me show you now how materials work. I think you already know a little bit about it, but I'll go a little deep on that. So materials library, you go into the manage tab, then you go to the materials. And this is going to open the list of all the materials that are loaded in the project. This doesn't mean that these are the only materials. These are the ones that whoever builds this template brought these materials over. And something that you are familiar already, because we did this in the wall, is these two tabs. The identity tab has the description and all the metadata about the wall. You can associate a material with a class, and a class. It's important because it defines the type of parameters for rendering physical and thermal properties. All of these materials have different physical and thermal properties. And so when you create a new material from scratch, it's important to pick the appropriate class. Other thing that you can embed inside a material is the manufacturer name. These are just text boxes. You can add cost information, you can connect to a URL. And this information can be a schedule, it can be made part of a report. Or you can connect the material with a material keynote. A keynote is a database of, is a database that is connected with Revit that allow you to connect the material with division numbers. The out-of-the-box keynote is organized via master format, 40 divisions. It's very comprehensive, it's not complete, but this text file, which lives in this path, could be enhanced. You can edit it, you can change it according to your project requirements. When we talk about keynotes in the documentation, I'm going to show you more about this. And let me remove that. I don't need this. But the graphics represent how a material appears in a projection or on a surface representation or in a cut pattern. And so starting in Revit 2019, now you have the ability to display two different types of hatches. The hatches in Revit are called patterns. Hatch is an AutoCAD term. These represent how an element, what is the projection representation, the surface pattern of this material, and what color it is. RGB00 means white. And then the background is another texture. It could be a solid, a color, it could be a different type of hatch. And then cut patterns as well. So let's look at the patterns. I don't know if I mentioned this before, but the patterns displayed in this project are also patterns that were brought into the project template. For an architectural project, these are not enough templates. And so one of the first things you need to do or check with your BIM coordinator is that you have enough patterns to document your project accordingly. Now you're going to find two types of patterns. Again, this is going to be in the test. Drafting patterns and model patterns. A drafting pattern, it's a representation of a generic material whose scale doesn't change between the different views. In other words, a drafting pattern, it's a generic representation of materials like gypsum or concrete or sand. These are not unitized representations of materials. As sand, for example, the sand or the concrete or the plaster representation of the materials it's always going to have the same density regardless of the scale of the view. So in other words, drafting patterns will not scale. What that means is that you can have multiple views in different scales, and the representation of the pattern is always going to be the same. Concrete is always going to have the same density. The sand is always going to have the same density, etc. And drafting patterns are mostly used to represent materials. Will be generic materials. For example, when you do a cut through steel, steel has a specific type of hatch. It doesn't mean that the hatch is going to look like that, but it's just the standard way in which we represent steel cuts. That is a drafting material. Then the model materials are unitized representation of materials. The difference is that these have specific dimensional sizes. And that dimensional size is respected when you switch from one view to another. So when, for example, if you're doing a vinyl tile floor or a ceramic tile, and you want to represent it the way it's sized correctly, then you pick the appropriate size, 12 inches by 12 inches. Now that model pattern is unitized. And so if you have views with different scales, then the hatch is going to also appear in different scales, but it's going to be dimensionally correct. So in 1/8 of an inch, the dimension is going to be 12 inches, but it's going to look more dense than if you had a view at 1/4 of an inch. So one way of putting it is if you're representing a unitized material, dimensionally correct, use model types. If it's a generic representation, use drafting. That makes sense? And you can create materials from scratch. In fact, no, let's do that in another class. I mean, just to give you a heads up, you can create a new pattern from scratch, and you can import an AutoCAD hatch pattern. But I'll talk more about that maybe in the next class. The main thing here, understand the difference between drafting and model. Okay, I think this is how something will represent in construction documentation, in surface and cut. But there's another one that I haven't talked about it, and this is the appearance library. And the appearance properties are parameters in the material that display how the material is going to be rendered. And so in order for something to appear rendered, it needs to pick up certain type of assets. And so what you see here, it's the asset name. And an asset name is a collection of a texture. An asset is like a placeholder for all these parameters. It's just pre-built, pre-defined by a library of assets that you bring into the project. Then you're going to see here, there's like a little hand. You might not see it on the Zoom. There's a little hand, and it has a number 0. And what that means is that in the project, there are no elements using these. There are no materials in the project that are currently using these assets. So if they say 1, 2, or 3, that means that there are multiple materials using this asset. And so right below here, you have information about the material. This is the name. You can actually change it if you want. Description and keywords. If you add keywords, then they're going to be searchable using this cell, the search cell. Then we have all this information about how an element renders. So you have the color of the material. This is how it's going to display in shading. Then you have a JPEG texture. If you hit on top of it, it will disclose what the texture looks like. What is the, you can change the brightness. You can make it darker or give it a greater brightness. By default, this is 100%. You can change the size of the tile and how it offsets from the starting point. In the X direction or the Y direction, or change the rotation. And the sample size, it's what does the texture represent? And so this needs to have a direct correlation with the tile. You can actually change it, increase it or decrease it. So this is saying that 3, 6, 8 tiles measure 16 feet. That's exactly what it means. But you can say, if you want to change the size, then you can resample it. And then repeat. The rendering process is a process of the texturizing a surface. And so you can repeat using tiles, or you can change it to none, in which case it's only repeated in a single horizontal pattern. Okay, so and then the physical properties has other type of assets that collect information about how the element performs structurally. There aren't that many physical properties, but if you select concrete, for example, concrete lightweight, notice how there is an asset called lightweight concrete 4KS that has all these different material properties. And all of these are related to the strength of the material, compression properties, yield strength, etc. I used to know what all of this means when I was taking structural materials in college or when I was studying for my license. I don't think I remember anymore. But all of these components are part of the assets. And the same with thermal assets. There's an assets that collect information about how these different properties for the materials are: thermal conductivity, specific heat, density, emissivity, permeability, porosity, reflectivity, blah, blah, blah. Now, these two, the physical and the thermal property, are only relevant if you're going to take your model to an analytical use. Especially structural engineers, when they're doing structural analysis, they do care about these properties. If we're doing some thermal analysis using third-party add-ons, this information can travel with the materials as well. But for the most part, these two are, I use just the default ones. All right, so let's start a new material from scratch. So I'm going to cancel here. And what I'm going to show you, this is a panel. I'm going to create a new panel type, and I'm going to create a panel that has a green tone. Now, I don't have a green panel, but I'm going to show you how to create a new panel from scratch based on an existing one. So the first thing is to tab select a panel. Tab select a panel. You hover over an edge and then hit tab. And when you have the panel selected, it should display in the property windows as system panel glaze. So I'm going to create a new type based on an existing one using the 3 rules: select, the element, duplicate, rename, and change parameter values. So edit the type. Step number 1, duplicate. And I'm going to call this green panel. And my green panel now is going to have, I'm just going to hit OK here. And this is a new panel based on an existing one, but it rendered exactly the same as the other ones. So what I need to do is to create a new material, give it a different asset that will change the color, and associate that material to the new panel family. So we go to the Manage tab. Oh, here's a question. Sorry, I wasn't looking at, I think it's Luis. How do you get properties to dock at the project browser? The properties to dock, right? So right here, you see that these are dock one after another one. By default, I believe you may have them separate. Let me property. Where did it go? Uh-oh. I think I move my property window. I move my property window outside of the screen. I think I move it outside of the area here. Let me save this. I have to close and open Revit. Revit. Okay, my property window, I don't know where to go. I have trouble now because without that, I can't display the instance properties of the objects. And I think what happens, I push it out like that, and it went really down in a different screen. Let me try something. I want to disconnect this settings and there you go. That's my. Now I need to share this appropriately. Share screen too. Wait, this is the project browser. Nope, it didn't come back. I screwed my Revit. Sorry, guys. Just let's share this again. Screen number 2. I think I can still teach the materials, and I have to sort this out when I'm done. Sorry, Luis. Yeah, let's finish the discussion of the materials. And I'll come back to you with the answer to your question. So let's create a new material from scratch. So when you open the material library, you are going to see these are all the different materials available to you. But I also want you to notice that in each of these checkbox and in these of the materials, there's a material with a red, a yellow corner, and it has a warning sign. This is a warning displayed by Revit that the material loaded by the template, it's an old asset.
Caesar,
So
can you zoom in?
say again?
You're in YouTube and premium, and it's really tiny.
Oh, shoot. Share. Let me stop sharing and then reshare. How about now?
Beautiful.
Okay. All right. So the I was saying the material library. So you go to the Manage tab, Material Library, and notice how next to each of these materials there is a material with a yellow corner, and the yellow corner has a warning sign. This is an indication that this is an old material. So starting in Revit 2020, there is a new type of material called PVM. This stands for physical-based materials. And physical-based material is a type of material that understand how the light bounces on it. And is used for high photorealistic rendering. And so in the out-of-the-box asset library, there's a combination of legacy materials and PVM materials. And whenever you're using, and obviously the PVM will give you a much better resolution when it comes to rendering. And so when we create a new material, let's make sure that we pick an asset that does not display the warning, the yellow warning. So the first step to create a new material is to choose the default material. So scroll here, find the default material, right click, and duplicate it. When you duplicate it, it will give you the number 1 as a suffix. And I'm going to call this glass-green. At the moment, this material, it's completely doesn't have any property. But let's look at the identity property first. The first step, make sure you pick the new material you created, and we're going to change the class from miscellaneous, and we're going to pick glass. There's this drop-down list, change it to glass. Then we're going to check the appearance. The appearance have generic assets, and notice how there's a little hand with 9. That means that there are 9 objects in the project that are using a generic assets. And I need to replace these assets with something that looks like a glass. And so what I'm going to do is access the asset browser. And the asset browser, it's this little icon, the third icon from the left, this third icon from the lower left. And this is going to open the asset library. So the asset library, is the Autodesk reference source of materials available to you to bring appearance, physical, and thermal asset properties. And so here you're going to find the structural materials as produced in different regions of the world. Physical materials are structural materials, so we don't care about them. You also have physical assets, which is, and then you have appearance library assets. And so if we care about how something's going to render, we need to access the material from the appearance library. These are all the Autodesk libraries. And the beauty about the asset browser is that it's the same library across all Autodesk products. So AutoCAD, Navisworks, Revit, and Fusion, they all use the same asset library. And this is a reference only library. Notice that that's why they are locked. You cannot unlock them. You can only retrieve placeholder information from the appearance library, but you cannot remove or delete them. And so to create a new glass, open the appearance library. I don't care about the physical and the thermal properties for now. And in here, selecting the appearance library, I'm going to search for glass assets. And inside the material library, these are all the different type of glass. This is by far larger selection of assets than the one that you will find out of the box. And so there's one called glass green. Notice that this lock means that it's for reference only. It means that you cannot edit it. And in order to transfer this appearance library into material, just double click on it. And when you double click it, the appearance library is transferring to the project. And all the parameters associated with the assets travel with it, including the color, the information, the texture, etc. And so the material library, the appearance library is grouped by class. Remember when we changed the identity, it was by class. And it has hundreds and hundreds of different materials. So if you need woods, look at all the woods available here: birch, cherry, white oak. There's like 200 different type of woods. Wall paints, stucco, sidework, stone. Stone is pretty cool. But notice also that in the assets, there are assets that have the warning sign, and there are assets that do not have the warning sign. And so preferably pick the ones that don't have the warning sign, because that means it's a physical based material. And when you compare a physical based material versus the legacy material and render it side by side, it's like day and night. The way physical based material treats light, it's just outstanding. It's amazing. And physical based materials are also used by other type of software like Twinmotion or Unreal Engine, which are game engines that a lot of architectural firms use for high photorealistic. And so use materials as much as possible that don't have that little warning sign. Sometimes if there's no other, feel free to use it. Okay, so I transfer the asset. The asset has a green color. Another thing I'm going to do, go back to the graphics, and in the shading portion of the material, hit use render appearance. And what this does is just collect the RGB color from the appearance library and apply it as a shaded. What it means in a shade mode, this is going to appear in this color. So I hit apply here, hit OK, and that material already exists. So now I can apply it into the panel. So tab select the panel. Damn, I don't have the type properties. I don't have my my instance properties because they went out of the world. But the last step will be to select that, open the type properties of the panel. Oh, you know what I can do? I can do it from here. Yeah, I can do it from here. Type properties of the panel, curtain wall panels. Here is my green panel. I just double click it and it's going to open the type properties. You can also in the type selector edit type, and in the material, let's select the green material, green glass. And there you go, green panel material. Now, when I switch this to render mode or realistic mode, this is going to display how the elements render, and you see that there is a tone of green here. This is clear glass, and that's why it doesn't appear. I'm just surprised that when I switch this to shaded, it doesn't display the right color, the green color. I would have imagined that this would display in green. Glass green. Yeah, I don't know why it doesn't translate. I don't know if on your end, do you see this green on your end when it's shaded? I'm not seeing it green. I should be seeing it in green,
Nope.
but you do?
No,
No, it
Okay.
goes transparent.
yeah,
Yeah. Let me see the properties again. Maybe, oh, because the transparency, it's 100%, that's why. So I need to limit, let's see, 50% transparency. There you go. So in the properties of the material, change the transparent. If it's 100% transparent, it's like it wasn't there. So I put it maybe 60%, and then it's going to display. Make sure you have RGB 68, 150, 71. Apply. Okay. There you go. Okay, so what time is it? 7. I need to troubleshoot why my property panel went away, went to the outer space. Let's stop here, and maybe next class, if you don't mind, we extended a little bit, few more minutes to catch up. But without the property panels, I can't teach. Sorry about that. So let's save this file, save it. And then next class, what we're going to do, we're going to wrap this building with a curtain wall panel with custom paneled colors. And I'm sure I'll have my property window back. I think I have to do some, I have to stop sharing, stop the recording, and then selectively turn off each of the monitors until I get my property window back in place. So save this, and I'll, yeah, have everybody a good weekend. Feel free to stay over if you have questions. Otherwise, I'll see you Tuesday. All right.
bye, thank you.
Okay, guys. Bye.
Hey, real quick, Caesar,
Yeah.
you change your battery on your CO2, it's chirping. I don't know if it's yours or somebody else's, but there's a chirping sound. Sounds like your CO2 needs a battery change.
Oh, it's, yeah. I don't think it's here.
Okay, so it must have been somebody else's then.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, it was a little distracting. I had mine changed maybe 3 weeks ago. It's kind of annoying.
So real quick, I lost the properties, actually the project browser. I'm only working on my laptop. I'm away from my dual to screen. So did it get moved off to the second screen type of thing or what?
Yeah, that's what's happened. And so to fix it, go back to your second screen, or check if your browser is open via right click.
Yeah, I did.
It is. So it's happened exactly the same thing that happens to me, that this dialog box, it's display in another screen, and because you don't have that screen, you don't see it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Are you still on vacation on Tuesday?
Actually, I'll be boarding a plane and I'll miss this next lesson. So unfortunately,
Okay. Well, feel free to hear the recording.
yeah, I would definitely will.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
Steve.
Hey, Caesar,
Yes.
can you give me the command real quick for merging the two panels? I missed that.
Yeah. So you pick a grid
Pick a grid.
and then hit add remove segments in the contextual tab. And just hit on it and then select section, grid section, and it's going to merge it. So again, select the grid.
Select a grid.
If you have the yeah, and then add remove segments. It's a contextual command. And then hit the portion of the grid you want to delete and hit escape.
Okay, I think I'm gonna have to rewatch the video. That's okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm gonna let me share this. I was doing it and here's the screen. So I select the grid, which expand along the element. Then I hit this add remove segment contextual tab command. And then hit the portion of the grid you want to delete.
I don't see that add remove on my,
When you select the grid,
yeah.
do you see this modify curtain wall grid tab popping up?
Yes,
And you don't see this add remove segments?
I do not.
That's strange.
Yeah, I think that's why I got lost.
Oh, you know what? You probably, do you have mullions?
I do.
Okay, so it's pinned. When,
Oh, okay, unpin it.
yeah,
And
unpin it and then add remove segments.
I still don't get that.
Sounds like it may be a user interface fart. I would say
Okay.
save a Revit and
Yeah.
open it and try it again.
Okay, so there's the command is add. Okay,
Add and remove segments. So you select the grid.
Select the grid and then click onto it, and then it's add remove segment. Okay.
Add remove segments, and then pick
Okay.
the segment you want to remove.
Okay, great.
And that's going to
Okay.
merge it.
Thanks.
Okay. Okay, anybody else have a question? Oh, good. All righty, then I'm going to stop the recording and see you guys Tuesday.
Thank you.
All right, bye. Have a good weekend.